I'm Kelly Harrell, author, animist, and creator of the Weekly Rune. Soul Intent Arts is my soul-tending practice, and you're listening to What in the Weird, my podcast in which I talk about runes, actionable animism, soul-tending, and how all of those intersect through sacred activism on my path. The Weekly Rune is out, and if you're not sure what it is, it's a runecast that I've done for years, focused on the runic calendar and the current half-month rune. The Weekly Rune is now available in full on patreon.com. Just do a search for Kelly Harrell to find it, and you can find the archive of all past runecasts on my site, soulintentarts.com. If you're not sure what a half-month is or what the runic calendar is, listen to the early episodes of What in the Weird, or just go read the Weekly Rune. It's explained fully at the beginning of every runecast. Thank you to everyone who listens to the podcast, to those who send notes and share their experiences of the runes. That's what it's all about, and I'm grateful for the engagement. And I also want to thank my Patreon supporters who make the sharing of my rune work through the podcast and the runecast possible with their financial support. If you've benefited from the runecast, the podcast, or the ton of free articles on the runes, animism, and soul tending on my website, you can show your support through buying my books, which you can find at soulintentarts.com or Amazon, by making a one-time contribution through PayPal or Square, or by contributing regularly through Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search for Kelly Harrell. You can also subscribe to the paid version of the Weekly Rune there, and thank you for it. My extra special thank you this episode goes out to everybody who has supported my book, Runic Book of Days. It's officially 2 years old, and it's what prompted me to start this podcast as another way to widen the conversation about the Elder Futhark in a modern context. I got so many emails and DMs about the book that I couldn't address them all, and so really the book helped me get to know loads of people who are doing awesome rune work. So, yay, 2 years. This episode is kind of a summary of the last 3 half-month runes, which have been Ansuz, Raidho, and the current half-month rune, which is Kenaz or Kenaz. In Runic Book of Days, I talk about a formula that emerged for me in working with these 3 runes in their traditional order of the Futhark. And that formula is Ansuz as soothsaying or speaking your truth, Raidho, which is storytelling, the progression of carrying your truth into life, equals Kenaz, which is meaning, as in literally, where speaking your truth as you move through life begins to become its own life force, i.e. animism. So Ansuz plus Raidho equals Kenaz, soothsaying plus storytelling equals meaning. This week's experience of Kenaz brought out a nuance of that formula that's worth diving a little deeper into. I really love it, and I think it's spot on for the progression of those runes through the Futhark. But it's also a really metaphoric way of looking at how those runes progress together. It's very intangible in the sense that we can just say, oh, well, speaking your truth is a philosophy. In the story that we choose to take from it is philosophy, and the meaning we choose to take from it is philosophy. And right now, what's happening on the planet is way bigger than just philosophy or metaphor. As we move through dealing with long-term discomfort in this COVID pandemic, we are being forced to examine everything at a deeper level, at a collective level. We have to hold the individual and the collective at the same time. We don't get to pick one over the other. We realize they're the same. And the challenge of seeing things that way is, seeing that we have an impact on the collective, is finding the place where you can be active in those revelations, meaning what can you do with them? What good is it to take things deeper and to realize everything is connected to everything, animism, if you don't know what to do about it? Or if you don't know what your role in that connection of everything is, what good is it to be philosophically aware of what your personal truth is, the story you're telling, the meaning it has for you, and your role in the world, if you don't know how to apply it when life is really hard? And that's what I feel like the rune cast for this week touches on. And in the most level, diplomatic way possible, tells us to get off our asses and get busy with our calling. If we think about soothsaying, speaking our truth, it's pointless to do unless we're willing to have the confidence to live it. Like, what's the point in speaking your truth, going through all that process of Ansuz, unless you're willing to have the confidence to live it? It's just an internal experience at that point that we isolate into ourselves. So, when we talk about Ansuz as all these little tiny internal processes that lead up to what comes out your mouth, what you put forward in the world, we have to eventually have confidence to do that. I mean, how often have you known what your truth is? You were just terrified to say it. I mean, how often do you really not know? That's what I find to be the case most of the time with the people that I work with. Clients will come to me and say, I don't know what my truth is. How do I figure that out? But the reality is they do know. They're just afraid they're going to get bullied, they're going to get laughed at or murdered or disowned from their family and their social circles. All of that is really real. That's real stuff that happens to people who speak their truths or live their truths out loud, particularly now at a time when rebellion against unsupportive systems and the need for social justice is dire. If we think about storytelling, the subtext of Raidho, it is that of movement. It's about moving from one place to the next and allowing the experience that connects those 2 points. So it's about the points, and it's about what makes them united. In writer terms, Raidho is the plot. It's the juicy stuff that makes the story worth reading. And in life, it's the growth that makes it all worth living. In short, Raidho is the experience that we gain as we move through life. So what is your experience of life right now? Not just the philosophical assessment of your experience, but what is the real nitty-gritty, lived, felt sense experience of your life right now? Can you hold it? Can you present it through your life and work and how you show up everywhere right now? Because again, doing that has real consequences in your everyday life. With confidence plus experience as Ansuz plus Raidho, we arrive at Kenaz as authority. Kenaz has different literal interpretations depending on the runic system that you follow. Though even looking purely at the Elder Futhark, we've kind of amalgamated its meaning to be torch and blemish. And both of those things represent a fiery, irritated space. But Kenaz carries this undertone of awareness exploding into the forefront of your mind. It's the point that inspiration provokes manifestation. And if we're truly manifesting with confidence based on our personal experience as animists, we are required to do so with authority. And of course, authority can cost you a lot in this culture. One of the most common dynamics I'm presented with in working with clients and students is it's this question of what their guides or well ancestors want them to be doing. It usually comes up in the context of what's my next step or what do you need from me? Meaning, what does my spirit ally, my well ancestor mean for me? And I'm not suggesting that spirit allies can't answer those queries. They can, but quite often they won't, because we are the spirit in form with the agency. We are the ones responsible for taking action, not them. And what comes up most often in that dynamic of appealing to spiritual allies for what's really the human's job to do is not accepting our own authority. We have a tendency to see ourselves as the emissaries of our experience, as the emissaries of those we deem higher than ourselves. We're just here to listen and carry out the instructions. We're just here to live a little bit and do the best we can. That's not authority. That's not weaving your weird. That's not acting upon your embodiment and wealth of agency to evoke change for yourself and the collective. Confidence plus experience equals authority. It's a very different way to look at Ansuz plus Raidho equals Kenaz, but it's a timely expression for how to move through the prolonged discomfort of life as we know it right now. Where are the places that you need to step into your authority? Where are the places that your communities need you to step into your authority? And what barriers, internal and external, do you face that keep you from seeing yourself as an authority? The Kenaz half-month affirmation from Runic Book of Days is, as I expand knowing who I am, I come to know comfort in my unknowable. Can you know yourself as an authority? Thanks for listening. If you have questions or insights about working with the runes in season, or you just want somebody to bounce your ideas off, feel free to email me at Kelly, that's Kelley, at soulintentarts.com, or you can call into the Anchor app, which you can download for Android or iPhone. Also, check out earlier episodes by downloading them from Google Play or iTunes and various other podcast platforms. And you can learn more about me, Runic Book of Days, and my work by visiting soulintentarts.com or on Instagram at Kelley Soul Arts. I'm Kelly, and this has been What in the Weird.